Can hear you guys just fine.
Excellent.
Yeah, very good. Very good. Um, so, um,
Professor,
yeah.
um, the deadline, when's the last day we can submit notes? Or add something to Satori and put it into our class notes and get credit for it, like for the notes. Like, when's the last day we can do that?
Okay, so I think actually let me open up Canvas really quick
Wait, there's a
because
due date. There's a due date for the notes.
well, no,
Well,
there's
like, there
like the notes are for you guys to study, but they're also like the test is based off of those.
Hmm.
So after test one, you're welcome to go back and add things to the first four, sections, but it won't count for anything
yeah.
because we're all past that now and nobody's going to need to study that for a test. But,
Makes sense.
between now and say, I'm going to log into Canvas to just see when I did put
Yeah.
Because I still question how you're gonna grade our notes from Satori and also from the one note. Even though
uh,
I know you did say for Satori, like you will see how long we've been on it. Like, do we check any videos or websites or something like that?
yeah,
Hmm.
I can see like your statistics for, yeah, how much time you guys have spent on there and, where you've, where you've been spending stuff. Oh my gosh, AVC's making me reset my password right now. I just can't sometimes. All right, well,
Just to
I won't try getting into Canvas for the time being. I won't worry about that. I think I had put the date for the test on. Um,
the 20th.
yeah, yeah. So that'd be Saturday, right? Or Sunday? Saturday.
Um, I think
20th is a Sunday.
it's
Oh, no, I put it for Monday, I believe. So it like opens at like,
it's on Sunday. The 20th is on Sunday.
yeah. So the test is, I believe, I'll have to find out maybe at break, I'll reset my password.
I'm checking the calendar, and
Oh, great.
it's on
Perfect.
Sunday.
ABC's not making you reset your password. Yeah, so I was spending some time in the notes the last few days. Um, you guys took a lot of the comments and advice in stride. I think they're looking good. It took me longer than I was expecting to have to like um, combine those 2 pages of notes that got going that were like overlapping. I think there was two sections of week two, like 1877 to 1890, and so they weren't both totally filled out, but there was definitely a lot of overlap in there. So it took me a little bit longer, but I got that consolidated. I also went through and highlighted in red all of the um, kind of key terms. Here, I'm gonna share my screen with you guys. Yeah, there we go. We're in one. Oh no, which screen do you see? You don't see OneNote, do you?
Well, you're on OneNote.
You can see
Just
that from my
yeah,
computer? Okay, great.
yeah, you can. It's the 1940 to 1945.
Okay, so back to section one here. Uh, if we just, you can see all these things in red. It doesn't mean that every one of these things is going to be on there, and it doesn't mean that some stuff that I didn't catch won't appear on there. So I'm sure, like, okay, I did not highlight their names, Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony. But they're under this kind of big, broad women's suffrage note here, which is good. And if you have like a basic, like a flashcard version of that knowledge, okay, women's suffrage, the NASA, like whatever the group is, the organization, the National Americans
One
Women's Suffrage
suffrage.
Association. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
it's a
that's
mouthful. And they had two different groups. They split after the Civil War, or kind of because of the Civil War in the 15th Amendment. The 15th Amendment is where they insert male into the Constitution. And so it actually gives recently freed slaves that are men, like across the board, just legal, better legal standing than women, some of whom have been graduated from college by now. So it's a very imbalanced thing. And a lot of the suffragettes felt, upset that they were excluded from that bill, which they had worked hard for. Their kind of part, their cause went hand in hand with abolition, and so they broke. They did two separate groups, and then they came back after a few decades and came back together. And that's when you see them. They'll start picking up steam, and so there's like this first generation. Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucy Stone, Susan B. Anthony. Um, uh, uh, these are like the pioneering women, and they're like the old. I mean, they look old school. They're Victorian, but the next generation that comes after they've kind of made this group come back together. That's like Harry Chapman Catt, I believe is her name. Um, uh, Alice Paul, right? Alice Paul. I haven't thought about suffrage in a minute, but they're like they pick up the mantle and kind of keep running with it and get the amendment passed to get a vote. And we see that kind of in the same way with a few successive generations of leadership and pioneering and not bowing to the system with civil rights advocates and kind of the civil rights movement, like the generation that's right here, right at the end of the Civil War is like Booker T. Washington. And he sounds very different. He's accused of being an accommodationist, saying, well, if we're just good, poor Negroes, then they'll realize that we're okay and okay people and accept us into society, which, I don't know. He was a man of his time, and I think he was a pretty awesome guy. But then the next generation is like W.E.B. Du Bois. We've talked about him just a little bit, but we're going to see him more. He's a very prominent figure, and he starts the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Color People, which wages the war for getting rid of segregation. Like that group is the reason we have Brown v. Board of Education, and desegregation is because of them. But it takes several generations sometimes, as we'll see. So not everything will necessarily be on, that not all of these terms are going to show up on the test. A lot will, and then probably some other things that I didn't get highlighted, might be in there. But certainly if I didn't highlight it, I'm not going to get crazy specific and make a hard question. It would be more like a big general broad thing that I happen to forget to highlight in here. I think I may have done that here with the Greenback Party. See, that one's, but even from the context in Satori, hopefully that is, what is really important is starting to stick out, like some of these big, organizations or movements or acts. And then also some of these things like Impressionism. And I actually want to try to talk about that a little bit today, because I was trying to last week, but just ran out of gas. And in here, in the notes, so note this right here, the Reciprocity Treaty of 1875. This is kind of like when America gets kind of the first, or legal rights, as they're called, to be in Hawaii and gain things. And so down a little bit further, I think it's in the next one. It's either at the end of this in 1890, or I think it's at the beginning of this third one here. There it is. So here's Queen Liliuokalani ascended to the Hawaiian throne, which is kind of like the beginning of the pushback of the Hawaiians against all the Westerners that are there. And so this kind of signals a new stage in the struggle. And then down here in 1898, we'll see like, oh, we just outright like overthrow the government and take Hawaii and claim it as like our port. We're just going to annex it like it's territory, just like all the other places we just did, Puerto Rico and Guam and America Samoa and the Philippines and Cuba. Oh man. So the question was like, hey, where does this go? And that is the challenging thing about this. Sometimes you might have to just make a handful of like, different notes along different years, but certainly in the sense of like, as these are notes that you're trying to study for information, sometimes putting like the first event, if you could take all of this and the stuff at 1890 and maybe put it in 1875, like put all of that stuff about Hawaii in there. Maybe just have something in there about like the Hawaii Treaty in 1875, and then maybe we take this stuff from 1891 and move it down to 1898 or 99 when Hawaii is like taken over. So it's a little bit, there's a little bit more lines in there, but less items in the kind of notes overall. So then there was also a lot of repeating information. I did see that to a degree. It wasn't too bad, but there was a couple places where it's like, I don't think you read what was right below that or right here, which I think this is supposed to be a legal case, right? Or just the name Eugene Debs. Okay, well, so those, we're honing them in, working them out. If there's a term like this one, right? Zionism. We have not really talked about this yet. There's notes there. You can watch some videos, in Satori about this stuff. I'm not going to ask you anything remotely deep on that. It'll be more like, do you know what this word means? Like, do you have a definition of this? And I'll give you like, a handful of options that are not, they're not going to be the definition that you'd look Googling it. It would be like descriptions of kind of what this process is. So it's like, you want to be able to identify isms, Zionism, communism, capitalism. It's helpful, especially when we're like trying to, sort through all these different ideologies. So I think on that note, I think that's like all I had to say about the notes. Let me go over to our, well, actually, I'll go to my space in here. I've got this teacher only section. So I'm going to publish all of these to your guys's OneNote, like in the content library, or I might put it in handouts for you. Don't be overwhelmed, and don't even feel like you have to look over all of these. But they're not long. Some of them are just YouTube videos. This is like one page, and it's tips for reading history. Like, hey, how can you read history more efficiently or grasp more of what you're learning? And this is short. It's like one page. So you can, and these things work. They work doing these. They're helpful. Like a short thing on plagiarism in case you're worried, wondering about that. This is an announcement for grammar groups. So if you, need some help, you need to work on your, like material and writing skills, you can hook up with the Learning Center. And then this one printed a little sideways. This is like this is just some stuff about the Learning Center, which I was trying to flip these around, but I was not able to do that. So, and then this is like a more exhaustive list of links. And I'm going to take a few of these out before I push them and publish them to your guys' thing, because not all of these need to be looked at in here, but there's different sections on taking notes in class, taking an exam. Let's see here. Writing and history courses.
Where is this, sir?
We're not doing a research paper, but like the research part of it could be very similar in how, what kind of, things you're going to be looking at. So reading and note taking. Here
Yes,
and
sir.
here's a breakdown for taking notes. Yeah.
Where is this? Where can I find this?
I'm going to send it to you guys. I just don't want to like overwhelm everybody and get like 1,000 emails like, oh my God, there's like all these things. Like, no, these are like handouts that you can kind of thumb through and try to find.
I saw a few good ones, so yeah.
Yeah, like if it's something like you're like, oh, I have not really thought about reading that, you might want to read history differently than literature, like than fiction. They're very different things. And then here's a short video on 5 different styles of note takings or systems, and then a really short video on the Cornell method, which is pretty popular. And that's it. So I'm gonna send those out to you guys soon, probably after we're done tonight. And yeah, so I just want to give you guys a heads up that those were coming and not just send them to you blindly. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. Okay, before we move on, you guys got any questions that I can help address?
Hey, sir.
Yeah.
Uh-oh. I think everybody tried to talk at the same time.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the test, and I know that you guys were talking about it in the beginning, but unfortunately I got kicked out of Zoom like 4 times. So I missed any of the discussion regarding the exam. And my question to you is, I see that the exam is scheduled on Monday, but there's class conflicts on Monday. I'm curious as to why the test is not being given during class time versus just Monday.
Yeah,
you know, a conflict and can't take it.
Yeah, the test will be open for 24 hours. So, you know, unless you're like working a, you know, 2 double overtime shifts, you know, fighting fires or something, you could probably find a window in there to take, you know, an hour to take the test. If you can't, you know, just let me know. I'll figure out some accommodations.
Okay.
It's not on Wednesday because, well, like, I'd much rather use that time for lectures than just kind of like a proctored exam, which I can't really do much about anyways on the other side of a computer screen. But also, like, we're combined, you know, in Canvas and in OneNote so it's 2 sections. It's Wednesday night, and then it's Monday online that doesn't have a time, so there's no like set time that everybody, you know, would meet or even be taking a test. So I was gonna have it Saturday, but then I just thought I'd rather give you guys the weekend to study and just, you know, come into it when the week's beginning. You know,
Professor.
Stressful. Yeah.
And that is my case.
So
That
the
is
test open.
The test is open.
Sorry,
The test is open on the 20th, and we have the 21st to finish it. I just checked it right now.
Yeah, it should open at basically midnight of the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Professor, this is Marshawn. I'm in the hospital right now, so I'm gonna listen as much as I can, and then but I should be taking the test, but I'm just letting you know if you like have the most important thing you can say before I like clock out.
Yeah.
I'm like trying to literally
Are you
participate.
okay? Is everything all right?
You good?
I have sickle cell disease, so I had to be admitted last night.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So the rundown is just, it'll be Monday. I'll probably say Saturday is the day that we need to wrap up the notes. So
Okay, sounds
I'll
good.
put an email together about that and say, just put in your notes for these first 4 things, like get them finished by Saturday evening so that, you know, you should be studying material before Saturday night. You should be working through notes and looking over things and seeing, like, trying to test your familiarity with the different ideas and terms in there. But like, after Saturday night, there shouldn't be any more new information added or many edits or anything like that. So I don't want new information coming up that might actually be critical information to be on your notes. That's going to come up, like, you know, 4 hours before the test goes live. That's too short.
And that's my question, Professor, because I like to print out my notes. I can't study watching a screen, so I like to print them out. So that was my next question. When can I print them out? And second, Monday is my 16-hour shift. So there's no way I can do a test on a 16-hour shift. So I will email you and remind you on that.
Okay, you email me and anybody else that's problematic. We'll figure that out.
I just stay at home. I got nothing else to do in my life besides school.
So
man.
I'm saying I probably can take it Monday, but if I'm like literally on a lot of medication right now. So if I can't take it Monday, well, can I just do it like Tuesday or whatever? Or I'll just try to take it Monday, because I'm like literally I'm trying to stay with the class. I'm not behind. I'm caught up, but
we can definitely make, I mean, you're in the hospital, we'll make arrangements and can postpone things, if we can work stuff out. Just shoot me an email and we'll figure out, times. And if Monday works for you and most of the class, and that's great. And if are more people that are working like 16, 20-hour shifts, or, infirmed, I might delay it a little bit more. I don't want to push it.
I'm just like, and I'm like on a lot of heavy medication, so it's just like that's going to be kind of weird trying to take a test, on those.
Hard to probably study, actually. Concentrate.
Well, I'm actually studying during my downtime, so I pretty much I feel like I'm able to keep up with the class, and I'm doing good on that thing. I'm just needing like another extra little help with that but I appreciate it though. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I definitely want to we pushed it out a couple weeks, I think, but it doesn't do us any good to just like rush a test and try to quiz you on stuff you haven't really had time to like process and learn. That's kind of the thing about history with like maybe even like language and stuff. It's like, no, you just need some time. Like you can't process. You can memorize things and write things down and take notes and be a really diligent student, but there's a lot of stuff to process, because you're not just processing stuff about history. You're processing kind of about yourself and your own life and the rest of the world. And what does that mean? And I've never thought about it. It's just kind of, you need time to unpack that, and kind of not even focus time sometimes. So like, that's what I'm saying. Be studying now. There's a lot of stuff in the notes. I've highlighted a bunch of stuff. And then on some of those highlights, if they like, because not all of the notes where I highlighted a term looked great. So like, you might look at it and go, I think there's some more stuff that's probably really important about Theodore Roosevelt that we should probably put in right here to associate there. And he's a good example, because he's like, there's quite a few different years, and he spans quite a few years and did a lot of different types of things. So consolidating them all under like one title somewhere with him, or a majority of them, may be beneficial.
Sounds good.
Okay. Well, I'm going to go over to Satori then, and we're going to open that up and just get to going.
Something
I
that
I just have one.
What's that?
Never mind.
I have one question.
Yeah.
Hello?
I can hear you.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Just to confirm, so the test is open for 24 hours, because I work the night shift from Sunday to Monday morning, and I have to sleep most of the day on Monday. So it will be open till midnight on Monday, technically, correct? So I'll have time in the evening to do it? Okay, got it.
Yeah. And if you're a night owl and you just want to get out of the way, you study all day Sunday and just take it at midnight and go to bed at 1 a.m. I mean, that's not very late for me most nights. So I don't know how you guys are. And you crazy people that work all those nutsoid swing shifts, good for you guys. That's a lot of road to haul.
Sir, I just want to ask a quick question. I'm writing a small it's not exactly small, but you get it's like not non-authentic essay about antitrust law, and I'm gonna already wrote the introduction to it about what it is and like how it started in the U.S. And I'm gonna have 3 body paragraphs, one for each branch of antitrust ideology. I'm gonna describe the history, and the conclusion is gonna be like why is the Sherman Act relevant for today? Do you, I thought about adding that to Satori. I was thinking about shooting you an email, but like to at what point do I know whether or not I'm good for class notes? Like I added a few things to the note page, but they weren't like, it was only like a total of 6 or like 9 or something like that to the actual note page, one note.
Well, let's see, and I'm just going to go out on a limb. I'm not assuming, but I'm not going to be surprised if your notes are quite comprehensive in some scope, because you're a very thorough student. So that's why I know it's kind of frustrating, but I'm much just more interested in the quality of like your guys' learning. So
yeah,
if you go deep diving and you really pick apart some like complicated things in here, like, you know, the Federal Reserve or the Clayton Trust Act and some of those things, and get really great bullet points in there, that because those things are usually some of the densest things for the majority of students studying history to get. So if you're putting a bunch of time into that and you've got 9 of those instead of like 12 or 14, I'm not going to care about that. I'm much more interested in the like quality of what you're doing. Less
Sure.
can be more.
Yeah.
Obviously, as in the notes, less can definitely be more. But that is a learned process for us. So yeah.
So I put everything I did on Satori or on the OneNote into my class notes. So if you want to look at it, you can see everything I did.
Oh, perfect. I will actually just take a peek right now.
Sometimes I feel like I'm just like doing mine weird. It's every hearing something in the back is just my fan.
What do you mean you're doing something weird?
Like
you feel like you're out of sync with the notes?
Yeah, or like am I completing? I'm supposed to complete all the blank parts. I even one set of the notes on Satori, there's like full of blanks between, like just completely blank. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to write. I did research, it's just not, but they're not really sound important much.
So on your personal notes, when you're under your thing and it says class notes, handouts, quizzes, you don't have to put anything down there. Like you're free to not take notes in class, but I'd encourage you to, even if you are just kind of like, I'm looking at yours, Noah, writing down like notes or putting something together that you're going to drop into the, group notes, the class notes. Or Satori, yeah, you can write those things here. You can keep track of them.
I'm doing that. I really like do I have to complete all the blank parts? Like there's pictures, but there's no description under it. Don't have to do that or something, or
where there's a picture but there's nothing under it.
Yeah, and there's a website and there's nothing under it, or.
Yeah, like so if and tracking them in, so if you really want to do a lot of stuff on Satori, which is good for me because obviously it needs a lot of work, and there are sections in there that have good material or writing or a link, but no media or art or anything to go with it. And sometimes the opposite is true, where it's a cool historic picture or like a YouTube video, but there's no description under there or links to other things.
Yeah,
that's fine with me. Just record it in here so that you have you're tracking that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like I am trying to make time to. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
I am trying to make time to be on Satori, but since I have other classes, I hardly have that much. I am trying. Okay, I really want to pass this class. I don't want to feel like I'm being lazy or anything.
Well, so here. Okay, I'm gonna. Am I sharing?
Sorry, I'm ranting. Like, I'm sorry, I'm like complaining or ranting about it.
No, not at all. We're trying to get everybody here and on the same page. So I'll actually go back to the previous one, Reconstruction, our kind of first one after the introduction. And I tried to go through, just like I did in OneNote, and make the sections that are like, you need to read this. Like, don't just gloss over it. Read it so that you understand it. And maybe if it's kind of a, because that's a dense couple sentence paragraphs I wrote, you might want to jot a couple notes down about that. Again, here's another one in red, on Reconstruction. Obviously, a major theme about the beginning of our course. Here, like Lincoln is important, and you should be able to sort that out for yourself. Like, I should know about this. And I'm making those colors, I think I'm going to make them purple for like people, if it's like biographical or it's about one person, it's Thomas Edison or Ulysses Grant. They'll be purple. And then let's see here. These ones, green is literature, so books. So I'm like, you don't have to like know the colors. I'm just trying to like kind of get a theme so you can distinguish what's what. And when you see red, go, okay, I gotta look at that. And like here, I have something written, but there's no title even. So, you could go in and spruce it up if you wanted to. Here's something where you could add something in there about capitalism and some description. Normally I probably would, but obviously I'm having a hard time just staying up on things. And then this like orangish color, I thought, hey, let's do all the like breakthrough discoveries, the scientific things, the new inventions in that color. So some of them will be kind of interesting, right? So here's a book, here's an invention, green, orange. This one's probably more important than a lot of other ones, but it's probably not as important as, the motion picture camera or the microphone. Like, we could have figured out different ways to type and do computing. In fact, people did figure out different ways. So in Satori, then, things that are in white, I'm not saying don't look at them. I'm just saying like these are a little bit more supplemental at this point. Like, this is a short video that's like, oh, you just watched this thing about railroads and are thinking about that. Here's another short kind of video to look at it from a different angle. Oh yeah, like I need to color this one because the Knights of Labor is important. As is women's suffrage. Okay. So it's not totally complete, but I've got the kind of main ones highlighted there for you guys to like really look at and know, all right, I have to grasp what I'm looking at here. And right here, Impressionism is maybe a good place to just pause if we're okay. And I'm good stopping if you guys have more questions at this point. But if you're game, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, Professor,
Yeah, I
I
got
have a
it.
quick question.
Yeah.
So when I go into the OneNote for our class, I could go into the notebook, but it doesn't show anything. Like, it says I'm in the History 108 notebook, and then it just says welcome to the class notebook and all that.
Okay,
won't show me,
you
like,
might
the
be
notes that we
experiencing, a couple students had this because I had a couple false starts with OneNote and Canvas and getting them to click before the semester started. So I think there was an original notebook for one of the sections that doesn't have anything in it. We don't use it, and it shouldn't be linked to anything, but somehow some of you guys have found it, or it's linked through the course or through like a tab that I wasn't aware of and didn't update in there. If you go to, well, let me see, you can see my screen right now, right? My OneNote screen?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you go to File and you go to Open, it should bring up whatever notebooks you might have. And if you've not used this before this class, you'll probably just have 2 in there. The correct one for this class and the wrong one that you have right now that's blank. So just open the other one up and it should It should have everything you're looking for in there, and you'll be connected. And then just close out the other one that's blank because we're not using that. So you could even try that right now while I'm getting going, and then at some point, we'll take a break and let me know if you were able to do that or get work that out by going to open and looking for notebooks that you would have things assigned to.
All
that would
right,
have been
thank you.
assigned to you. Yeah, you got it. Okay, Sue.
Professor,
What's that?
I have a question.
Sure.
Did the Reconstruction end in 1876 or 1877?
Okay, good question. It kind of both. And this is kind of like with the Hawaii question. It's like, well, there's actually a few dates here and you could pick them. And it's not that it's wrong or inconsistent. It's like, okay, well, the election of 1876, which happened in November, just like ours is going to happen in November, it went bad. And the Democrats looked like they were going to win because they had the popular vote. But the Republicans controlled the court. They controlled the Supreme Court, and they won the electoral votes, which has been a pattern that keeps repeating. And so they have a standoff. It's kind of they're going to the Supreme Court. They're battling over this. And so what they come to is in 1877, right in the beginning of the year, is what's called the corrupt bargain, or there's a name for it with 77 in it. People called that this because the politicians made a dirty deal and they kind of changed powers, but betrayed the South, betrayed all the Black Americans living particularly in the South. And this is where we see all political kind of rights and involvement and normalcy in American life start to disappear, and all those black codes and Jim Crow laws and segregation start to come in. So it really has its beginning right at the end of 1876, but it happens in 1877, just like any president gets elected, in November and then inaugurated. And so I actually had a hard time. I was inconsistent about which one I was even recording when I was trying to put material together. And then I just thought the election is actually a lot more exciting than the inauguration. The inauguration's not that, it's kind of boring actually. But the election's that's when you find out that's when the game is. So I decided to go by election day instead of inauguration day. You can note the day that they're inaugurated, but the election is kind of the big deal. So, so but it points to the kind of complicatedness of history. When did this start? And as we'll see when we get up to World War II, it's when did World War II start? And it kind of depends on what country you ask. Because if you're asking Poland, it's in 1939, right? Or 1940? 1940. If you're asking America, it's 1942. 1939. If you're asking Czechoslovakia, it's in 1936. If you're asking Manchuria or Korea or China, because of the Japanese, it's 1928. It's so the dates are all, this is just a giant crap storm that's brewing for a really long time, and then kind of everything comes together, and the
Professor, it's
quite unfortunate. Yeah.
The military historian Victor Davis Hanson said that he said for World War II especially, it started off as a small border conflict, and the Axis powers were well equipped to fight on their own behalf in their respective spheres of power. The moment the war became global, they couldn't win because they had enemies all around them. Like Japan, it went from having a colony in Korea, some people they were fighting in China, but the moment they attacked Pearl Harbor in order to get to the Philippines, they won the Philippines and were attacking Indonesia, but they had enemies everywhere coming at them after that. And the same thing with Germany. So it was interesting how, like you said, the reason why they looked like they were going to win for a while was because they were winning, because it was a border conflict. That's what their leaders were looking at. But the moment it became global, they didn't realize that they were kind of trapped in an alley and that everyone was coming.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Like, yeah, in World War II, one of the first European or kind of international incidences is really early on. I think it's 1934, 35 when Mussolini invades Ethiopia and takes it over to rebuild the Italian Empire, and the League of Nations and everybody else just kind of sit around twiddling their thumbs and don't do anything. But the Ethiopians lose as soon as the war starts going beyond their borders, because like people like the Italians come in, which at the turn of the 20th century, they actually whipped. I think it was the Italians had actually tried to invade earlier, but technology was primitive. It was before World War One even, and so like valiant, just charging on horseback with a spear and a sword and like hand-to-hand combat, they were savage. They totally defended Ethiopia, kicked out the colonizers, and did it. But by another 40 years of, well, Ethiopia and a lot of other African and Asian countries getting the short end of the stick as colonization and industrialization kind of move forward. They're not progressing at the same rate that Italy is. And Italy's not as like far advanced as Germany or England. So when Italy shows up at their border to have like a straight fight on their border invading them, it's not really their neighbor who's right next door who has loosely the same technology as them. It's somebody from a totally different society, like a different quote unquote civilization, the way the world looked at it certainly 100 years ago. And yeah, you're screwed. You can't win that one. And it just kind of keeps spiraling. It just goes, spirals out of control.
Yeah, and from an economic lens, like you can look at it as in how like there's sort of like the moment the war became global, there's like an ecosystem. Because before, like it was the British Empire, which was pretty big against the German Empire, basically. But after it became global, like allies could shift equipment to their allies, or they can help cut off trade routes and what have you. So like it became just unwinnable, especially because like Hitler at the moment after Pearl Harbor happened, before anything else happened, Hitler declared war on America.
Oh,
so like he threw a hook out into the river when he didn't have to, and it sealed his fate.
Yeah. No, you're totally. Yeah, and people ask that, they're like, well, what if Germany hadn't declared war on America? It's not a foregone conclusion that America would have gone to war with Germany. Remember,
they didn't attack. Yeah.
Though they didn't attack, we had done. I mean, for decades, they've been one of our biggest industrial trading partners. But they also like German, like ethnically German, I think is probably the single largest ethnicity, as in like one kind of monolithic small ethnic culture, not like race or skin tone or language group, but or religion, but cultural, linguistic, religious group. Like it was all kind of one thing. They're the biggest. I mean, the Irish are pretty close, and the Irish hate the British. Like they hate them so much. In World War One, all of the Irish were like, yeah, they were rooting for Germany and Austria. They tried to fight Britain too. Like they were like, kill them, get them out of here. They're the worst. Like they hated the British. That didn't just go away after World War One. Like there were still a lot of Irish people in the country that felt that way, and there were definitely a lot of German people and Italian Americans. And like you think about like, especially like East Coast cities, there's big chunks of those populations there. And so the country's pretty split. It's pretty divided. I think German is the most taught language in schools in America for at least a time period. And before that, I think it was French, and now Spanish, but it took some years for Spanish to catch up because, well, there's so many immigrants coming from those, places that neighbored places that had those kinds of languages going on. All right. before transitioning, so spin back over this this first board for us here, and just make sure, kind of like in the notes, like you're looking at it, you're familiar with it. And for those of you that were like, man, okay, I'm trying to find time to do this, I just don't have very much. Just remember, a lot of what's in here is videos. So yes, you can read this, and you could read this and not watch the video, and you get, pretty much the information you need there. You could watch the video, and if you're a very audible learner and remember stuff that way, or if you're like watching the video and jotting down some notes, even if it's just on pen and paper that you put on your computer later, that's good enough. Like, you don't have to do both. So if you're like, I'm doing a lot of stuff, but you multitask, like, I'll admit it, I watch Netflix while I'm working sometimes, right? Like, I'll put some show on or some documentary. Sometimes I do podcasts, but I'll put some shows on. I put history shows on a lot. They're kind of interesting. They're very verbal, so you can listen to them. They're very detailed, like with the language part. And so whether it's reading a lot, which can be overwhelming, or just feeling like I don't have time for all this material. It's like, okay, we'll try to start with the things that I'm trying to highlight as important. And when there's opportunities for like videos, just hit them, like get in a flow where you might even be doing homework for 2 classes at the same time, right? You might be like watching some YouTube videos or history videos in here, that are giving you the information. They're like reinforcing verbally, visually, and in text the kind of important material for this that, yeah, you want to remember for the test, but like, hey, truth be told, it's good to know when abouts the telephone was invented. You do not have to know that it was on February 14th, 1876. Knowing that it was like in 1876 would be great. Knowing that it was like in the 1870s, that's good. Like those are good things to know, because those are game changers, right? Like, people start thinking about the world differently than they did before. They're not farmers anymore. Things are instant. So just let the video play, and you could be making, whatever, your like anatomy class flashcards, or responding to emails you have, or clearing out your inbox, or what, like whatever kind of work you can balance with those things. I'd encourage you guys to, because it's an overwhelming amount of things to learn in history. And this is like, very tiny, portion of that. And it still can be very overwhelming. So go through and just do videos. I think I learn that way a lot. I think most of us do. So why not learn that way in school while we can? Okay, so